Samurai Lens here with another movie recap for you all. A group of young boys and the crashed plane's captain are stranded in the ocean, but a lifeboat pops up. They row to a beautiful remote island. The captain they rescued is injured, and talks about water in his sleepy state. While the others sleep, one boy goes exploring and finds drinking water. He tells the others, and after they have their fill, they go on exploring. They find a type of edible squash and a wild boar. One of the boys blows a conch shell to summon them all for a meeting. He tells them that whoever holds the conch gets to speak. Another boy gives the injured man some water. They decide that it shouldn't be long before someone starts looking for them. Then they decide who should be the leader, unanimously electing Ralph, the oldest boy. As they build a small shelter out of branches and vines, Jack argues with a boy they nickname Piggy about whether or not they'll ever be rescued. Ralph breaks it up, and they work together again, singing as they bring dried wood to the top of a hill. Ralph uses Piggy's glasses to start a fire with the sun's rays. It quickly gets out of hand, engulfing the top of the hill. As the sun sets, it's apparent they're starting to lose some of their hope and energy. They sit around the campfire and listen to Jack's scary story. The next morning, Ralph and Jack talk and walk along the beach and through the jungle. They contemplate a life on the island without the academy or any girls. The other boys roast a lizard over the fire and eat it skeptically. Another day has passed. Piggy eats a questionable banana as the captain stirs a bit. They get back to work collecting food and wood, but it turns to playing. Ralph sounds the conch and they all gather to listen. He says they've all been slacking off. Some of them don't even know when to go to the bathroom. He decides they need more discipline in spear fishing. Others suggest they hunt the boar more. Ralph assures a boy that they'll be rescued, but Jack objects and says they won't be. While some boys try to fish, others throw rocks at them. Ralph gets them to stop their foolishness. Some of them talk about whether Jack actually did drive a car on the highway like he claimed. At the campfire, one boy wonders what time it is so he could figure out what's on TV. He decides Alf is probably on, causing some trouble right at that moment. The other boy agrees. One boy has befriended a chameleon, and he carries it around, joining the others. When it falls off of him, another boy stabs it. He walks away, devastated. They sharpen spears and decide they should hunt the boar at dawn. Suddenly, Jack hears something and runs into the jungle, but only finds the delirious captain. He's laying back down on the beach and they decide he probably isn't going to make it. As the boys sleep, the captain sweats profusely until he wakes up and runs into the jungle. The next morning, they find his clothes among the rocks. Simon argues that he could be alive somewhere, but the others are doubtful. That morning, they start hunting boar, but one boy trips and hits his head. He gets up slowly and surprises them by saying he injured the boar, so it'll die eventually. Jack uses the blood of the boar to paint their faces. They're warriors now. The next morning, they're hunting the boar again while other boys bring water back to camp. As they walk along the beach, they hear a helicopter. They all attempt to flag it down, flailing their arms and climbing to the top of the hill. It didn't see them. Ralph returns to the group, saying if they would have kept the fire going, the rescuers would have seen it. Jack argues that they were out hunting, and calls it his gang. Ralph asks him what he means by that, and Jack tells him to stop trying to run everything. Jack says he's going to start a separate group for hunters and boys who want to have a little fun. Ralph tells him not to, that they need to stick together, but it's useless. Jack leaves with nearly half the boys. At night, Ralph has a nightmare that the helicopter returns, only to drop a bomb. He wakes up to a really bad storm. Trees fall down all around them, and they wonder where the others are. The next morning, Piggy calls for Ralph. He climbs over downed palm trees as the boys try to reunite. They find a big bunch of bananas and start eating them happily. While looking for a new place to start a fire, they find the dead boar, but don't try to cook and eat it. The other boys are hunting with Jack. One of them discovers a cave. He enters and is attacked by the deranged captain. He screams, stabs him in the dark, and runs away. He reluctantly returns to the cave with the others after he claims to have found a monster. Jack investigates and hears it breathing, so they decide to run. They try to figure out what it is while they poke at a small campfire. In passing, Jack tells some of the boys from the other group about the monster they found living on the island. The boys return to tell Ralph no one wants to be on campfire watch because of the monster Jack told them about. Just then, two boys from Jack's group show up to demand they have the survival knife and all of Jack's things. Ralph says they can't have the knife. They're the ones that chose to leave. Ralph tries to tell them there isn't a monster, and Jack knows that. He's just too chicken to come down and get his stuff. The twins join Jack's followers. Jack and his group ambush Ralph's side as they sleep, destroying their shelter and taking the knife with them. In the process, they broke Piggy's glasses. he cries, realizing his chances of survival have dropped significantly. Simon goes to where Jack's group is, and asks the lookout where he found the cave. The boy reluctantly tells him, but says he shouldn't go there. Jack's group is carrying a hunted boar tied to a long tree limb. He starts cutting it with the knife they stole, and places its head on a stick. Jack and his group visit Ralph and Piggy to invite them to the boar feast. They join them and eat. Jack tells Ralph he kept his promise and got them meat. Ralph says that doesn't mean much if they gave up their one chance of being rescued because no one kept the fire going. Jack refuses to become one group again. The boys circle the campfire, becoming animalistic in nature. Meanwhile, Simon has gone into the cave and discovered the captain's dead body. He comes running back to the others, holding a glow stick. They don't recognize him, and don't hesitate to stab the monster to death. They realize a little too late that it was Simon. The next day, Ralph is crying over the loss and tragic mistake. Piggy says they were scared, and it was dark. It wasn't anyone's fault and there was nothing anyone could do. Accidents happen. The twins approach them and ask if they have any fire because theirs went out. Meanwhile, Jack orders that Mikey be whipped as punishment. He promises them another fire and hunting trip soon, but they must be careful because the monster could come out any time. Piggy wonders if they should build a raft and row out there. Ralph says he thinks there could be boat traffic nearby, and they would be found quickly. Piggy thinks they'd be taken prisoner by the Russians and forced to perform in the Olympics. As they talk, a broken instrument floats onto shore. In the middle of the night, as they sleep, Piggy is awakened by intruders. Jack taunts them by saying he wants the piggy. They all start poking their spears into their shelter until they manage to steal Piggy's glasses. The next morning, Piggy is distraught and vulnerable. He asks Ralph if they could join the others. They walk to the others and Ralph says Piggy can't see, and if they needed the glasses all they had to do was ask. Jack starts fighting with him, saying he doesn't have to ask. Piggy blows the conch and he says he needs to speak. None of the boys want to listen as he speaks. He says they may never be rescued, so they may have to live there for the rest of their lives. Just as he says they must be sensible and work together, a boy pushes a boulder onto his head, killing him. Ralph says they won't get away with this, but they start throwing rocks at him, telling him he's on his own now. The twin boys are on fire watch, debating whether they believe in the monster or not. Ralph approaches them, and they tell him he can't be there. He says they should stand up for themselves, otherwise they'll end up becoming one of Jack's slaves. After a morning alone, Ralph wakes up to fire throughout the jungle and the hunters looking for him. He runs from them, accidentally discovering the boar head. He kneels under a fallen tree, dangerously close to flames. Jack and his hunters are close, but only the twins catch a glimpse of Ralph. They make eye contact until Jack asks if they see anything, to which they respond no. Ralph is relieved, but he isn't safe yet. Another boy alerts Jack to his presence, so Ralph takes off running for his life. Through fire and jungle they chase him the same way they chased the boar. He falls and lands in front of an army soldier. He is stunned to see him. The others appear, and they are all stunned as well. He asks what they're doing, and Ralph breaks down crying. A helicopter lands and they are all saved.